Okay, I think we'll begin. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. We're looking forward to sharing the results of the recent study on the effectiveness of mentoring that we conducted in partnership with Accenture. During this webinar, we will share the highlights of the report, and we'll also make the report available to you to be downloaded as well. My name is Peter Paul, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. I am the project leader of ALLIES. ALLIES is a joint project of Maytree and the J.W. McConnell Family Foundation from Montreal. We provide resources to immigrant employment councils and mentoring networks to bring together local stakeholders and to develop practical solutions to help skilled immigrants find work. One of the key programs that we've been working on over the past several years is mentoring. And to date, we have provided tools and resources to mentoring programs across the country, across 7 provinces. So mentoring has been a key priority for us, and we are greatly encouraged by the growth of mentoring in these various cities. We have a fantastic network of programs that we work with, and we're really excited to share these results with you. Before we get to the webinar content and the results themselves, I just want to highlight a few housekeeping points. Firstly, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you on our website. You will also receive a notice when that happens. As you can see on the left-hand bottom of your screen, there's a chat box. This is a space that's made available to you so that you can discuss amongst yourself any points. During the webinar, you can share information, links, anything that you think is relevant or that would add to the discussion. And as you can see on the right side as well, we have a question and answer box. So feel free to type in any questions that you may have as the webinar progresses. We have saved plenty of time at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. So we look forward to great interaction on that front as well. Very briefly, we'll just go over the agenda for today. We'll first talk about the results of the study. We're fortunate to have Ratna, Omidvar, the president of Maytree, and Calla, Executive Director of COSTI Immigrant Services here in Toronto, join us for this. We also have 2 testimonials or experiences from a mentee and a mentor, both from TD Bank, who's been a tremendous supporter of mentoring across Canada. And then, as I said, we've left 20 minutes for question and answers. At the end, I will be moderating the question and answer session as well. So without further ado, I'll pass this on to Ratna, the president of Maytree, and been a founding member of mentoring programs here in Toronto, along with other partners, including Mario here in the GTA. So I'll pass it on to Ratna to share some highlights of the mentoring survey.
Thank you very much, Peter, and hello, everybody. I noticed from our computer screen that we are up to 84, 85 people listening in, and isn't it fantastic? We can sit at our desks and we can hear about this without having to travel thousands of miles, although I understand that sometimes travel is in fact desirable. So as most of you will guess, I too am an immigrant. I came to Canada in 1981, and there was no mentoring program. And if there had been a mentoring program, if I had been able to access a mentor who would have showed me the ropes, I think I may have saved eight of the best working years of my life, which I lost. Because like other immigrants who come to Canada, I did bring a lot of stuff with me. I brought my education, my experience, and my skills, but I was not able to bring, and that's natural, I was not able to bring my network, especially the network of my occupation, and I did not know anybody who worked in the precise field that I was wanting to find work in. So mentoring is really a simple idea. It connects someone who's newly arrived as an immigrant with their Canadian counterpart in their particular profession or occupation. Wherever possible, the match is as finely made as accountant to accountant, or journalist to journalist, or even better, engineer to engineer, civil engineer to civil engineer. The finer the match, the better the outcome. And this because a mentor will help a newcomer to A, build their professional network, because we know that most of the jobs, I've heard a figure like something like 80% of the jobs are not advertised. They are passed on by word of mouth. So this is the famous hidden job market. So you need to know people in the field to get access to those hidden jobs. Second, it improves your insight, an immigrant's insight into the job search and job marketing culture of not only of Canada, but of the particular occupation. Helps the immigrant look in the right places and say the right things. Third, this is really important, it enhances and provides context to them of their occupation in this country. You know, engineering is engineering, but there are particular contextual factors that are special and relevant to Canada, and newcomers need to understand these factors. So for instance, you know, what's the regulatory framework? What's the pathway to licensure? What's the particular way of doing business in a sector, etc. And finally, possibly most importantly, it helps familiarize them with the culture of the Canadian workplace and gives them a much deeper understanding from a professional who's in that field of employer expectations. So we always knew that this was a good idea. When Maytree started this, close to 10 years ago, we knew that this was a winning idea. But the fantastic thing is we now have the evidence. And in order to gather the evidence, and in order to understand the impact it was having and to proceed in strengthening the program nationally and in local communities, we wanted to gather a solid database of evidence that we could look at and analyze. And in order to do this, we brought in Accenture to design the survey, administer the survey, and analyze the results. And today, I think what we want to do is share the evidence, and I hope you will all think it's a good news, in fact, a fantastic news story. And we want to use the story to tell everyone that mentoring works. We want our partners in corporate Canada to hear this message because we want more mentors, we want more corporate partners, and we want national corporate partners so that if TD, for instance, who is on this call, and they are a national partner with us, if they are promoting mentoring to their employees in Toronto, it's relatively simple for them to promote mentoring to their employees in Calgary. We want our funders to hear this message and help us scale up the initiative. We want policymakers to understand how this relatively simple intervention is making such a huge huge impact in a relatively short time. And of course, we want to help. We want to reach many, many, many newcomers. So now a brief word about the methodology of the survey. Who was surveyed first? We focused on mentees who had completed a mentoring relationship between February 2010 and February 2012. We looked at 1,900 mentees in 8 cities, and we got 292 respondents. And they were surveyed between November the 7th and December the 7th of 2012. And Accenture, as I said, conducted the survey and analyzed the results. So our partners in this, of course, and we would not have been able to complete the survey without the active participation, collaboration, and cooperation of all our partners in the field. They run their own independent mentoring programs, and they all collaborated to provide us with information on a common flat platform. And this, in and of itself, I would suggest to the audience, is a significant success that we want to keep repeating. So our partners are, in no particular order, I love you all, the Calgary Region Immigrant Employment Council, La Conférence Régionale des Élus de Montréal, or CRIE, or CRE as I call them, the Edmonton Region Immigrant Employment Council, the Immigrant Employment Council of BC Vancouver, the Immigrant Services Society of BC Vancouver, Immigrant Settlement and Integration Services Halifax, Mosaic Vancouver, the Ottawa Community Immigrant Services Organization, Success Vancouver, the Toronto Region Immigrant Employment Council, or TRIEC, and the YMCA's of Cambridge and Kitchener-Waterloo. Please do take a look at the list while I take a little sip of water. I seem to have a frog in my throat. I apologize. Okay, so some demographics. I'm not going to repeat everything, but it's interesting that the average age was 42%. It's not 42%, they were 42 years old, best years of their working lives. Most of them were visible minorities. This is mirroring back of immigration demographics. There was a roughly 53-46% of male to females. Of course, we'd like to get that up in terms of women, as our program is targeted at those most recently arrived. All 85% were 3 years or less in Canada. All of them had university degrees, and all of them had over 5 years of work experience. And some of the key findings, and you know, this is really I think the exciting part of the survey, is we learned that mentoring works, and it works very well. Mentees significantly improve their economic standing 12 months after mentoring. So, in particular, on average, unemployment decreased from 73% at the start of mentoring to 19% 12 months later. Just consider that, 73% to 19%. And full-time earnings increased from $36,000 and change to almost $60,000, an improvement of 62%. We also found out that 65% were employed full-time, and this is an important indicator. As the world of work changes and we hear more and more about part-time contract work, 65% of mentees were employed full-time. 71%, again, fantastic news, employed in their field. I mean, this is a significant return on investment. And 47%, also very important, employed at an appropriate level. So they weren't underemployed or simply employed in their field. They were actually employed at their level. So some of the additional mentees that some of the additional benefits, that we were able to determine is, since most mentees were finding work in their field, it means that their starting salary and future salary trajectory is likely higher than for those working outside their field of expertise and experience. A second finding was that most mentees find full-time permanent work. They are likely to receive employee benefits from their company, which increases their effective earnings. Improved employment outcomes for newcomers. Also, we are making some conclusions here, decreases the cost to government. And there is, and cost to government is, of course, the cost of direct payments to those who are unemployed and the cost of various subsidies on housing, training, childcare, etc., etc. I do want to point out that there are a variety of other benefits that mentees have reported, and I think this is really where the magic kicks in. Friendships that develop, a greater sense of being connected to the community, exposure to Canadian norms and customs. However, this study, we wanted to focus on the tangible economic benefits that accrue as a result of mentoring. So now I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and partner in mentoring, Mario Calla, the Executive Director of COSTI. I think COSTI is the largest immigrant settlement agency in all of North America, if I get my facts right. And when we wanted to do this in the GTA and then beyond Toronto and into Canada, the first person I picked up the phone for was Mario. He's a passionate advocate for newcomers. He sits on the board of TRIEC with me, and so understands this both from the point of view of the work that councils, immigrant councils do, but also service delivery agencies, because Mario works directly with immigrants. So Mario.
Thank you very much, Ratna. That's a very kind introduction. And it's really encouraging to see this study actually supporting a previous study done by TRIAC about 6 or 7 years ago that showed pretty well the same results. It was a much smaller study at that time, so this now has a much bigger footprint and has a more sound basis, and so it's very encouraging, and it certainly supports our experience at COSTI in delivering the program. I would just make a few remarks about it in terms of the success of this program. The thing that strikes me when I look at the variety of programs that we deliver for internationally trained professionals is that this program gets at least the same results and mostly better results in terms of outcomes to other programs that cost considerably more. So there's really a win-win situation here with mentoring. One being that it's very effective, as the study, the ALLIES study shows, and the other that it's very cost-effective, because when you think about it, the people really doing the work are volunteers. They're the mentors themselves. And so it has, great advantages that way. The other thing that I find in terms of, getting into some of the nitty-gritty aspects of it that make it successful, the match is important, as you noted, Ratna, the importance of, matching a chemical engineer with a chemical engineer. But going beyond that, it's also matching for industry, because there's chemical engineers that work in the petrochemical field, others that may work in pharmacy and even the food industry and so on. So the closer the match, the more effective the results. That's one key component. The other key component is actually following the manual that the mentoring partnership has set up, because where the matches have failed from time to time, it's because communication has broken down. It may be that the mentor gets very busy. Sometimes you get very senior people doing this. They get busy and they're not really meeting regularly. The intent of this is to meet 2 hours a week for 4 months, and you get the kinds of results that you just showed us in that study. And if that happens, then it works. And this is where, the initial meeting with the mentoring coach is key to set the expectations, to set the goals that the mentor and mentee can agree to, and then moving on from there. So I'm thrilled to be associated with this program for the past 10 years or so, because I remember, Ratna, when you approached me about it, and we started developing the idea with the mentoring committee, and I'm thrilled to see the success it has become, and my hope is that we can roll it out even more broadly, because it really has an impact on our community from a point of view that we're people who come with a real desire to make a contribution to this country then are given the opportunity to do that. So I'll just stop there, because I think there's a lot more that can be said about this, but it'd be interesting to hear from the mentor and the mentee and then pick up on some of these points.
Thank you so much, Maria. Just for the audience, I want to alert you to the fact that you can download the report that we are speaking about. It has been, there is a link has been posted, so you can take a look at it at leisure. Mary, I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
We always talk about the mentoring program as the magic that happens between a mentor and a mentee. But it is actually a triage effort, isn't it? The mentoring coach. Can you talk a little bit about what the mentoring coaches do and why they are so essential to creating a successful match?
Sure. It is, as you noted, a three-way relationship. And I think, as I was saying, the key is to get off on the right foot. What are the expectations? And this is where the mentoring coach comes in. The initial meeting, after the match is made, that initial meeting is about looking at clarifying the expectations, ensuring that those expectations are within the parameters of the program, as I said, about 2 hours a week for up to 4 months. Some of these relationships, the last thing you want is a mentee to become dependent on a mentor and the mentor not knowing how to get out of that and that sort of thing. And so they contract, they use the word loosely, but, they agree up front on those terms, set the goals, and then the coach follows up regularly with them to ensure that it is happening, that there aren't any issues that need to be sorted out. In our case, it's about once a month because these are professionals. I do think if time availability, it's probably better to do it once a week just to touch base, or or once every 2 weeks. But it's once a month for now. And then there's at the end of the match after the 4 months, and then there's I believe a 3-month and a 6-month follow-up with the mentee to see how they're doing. So that relationship is important.
So it's the glue that holds the match together.
Exactly, so that they stay on track and there's a roadmap. The roadmap needs to be followed. Otherwise, it can go astray. It can go in different directions.
I particularly resonate to your comments around setting of boundaries because I think in a mentoring match, trying to figure that out on your own, and I've been a mentor, and it's very difficult to set those boundaries, and it's wonderful to have a coach tell you there are some natural boundaries that are important to preserve. So Mario, just another question to you before we move on to other agenda items that Peter has. We know that there are roughly 1,700 matches in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if this works so well, and as you said, it's relatively cost-effective, what should we all do to take that 1,700 up to, let's say, 5,000? Is that in our grasp, in our reach, or am I overreaching?
I don't think you're overreaching. What really has struck me, I mean, when we first talked about this, way back, I thought mentoring, well, it seems like too loose, and I didn't think it would get the results. But what has happened is we know the results now, but something else has become clear, and that is that mentoring has become a sound business practice in general. More and more, I hear about people, who are not newcomers, but are being mentored or are mentoring, junior people within their organization. And so it has become a part of the fabric of industry. And so I think that, the environment is ripe to actually move it up, to scale it up, and really have a serious impact on this issue. There are a lot of programs for internationally trained professionals, but they're all, you maybe 20 people in a class and so on, and expensive, etc. And we're not even, having any kind of significant impact on this challenge. I think mentoring has that, the potential to have that kind of impact. And so I think it's just a question of rolling it out around the country, across the country, and basically getting more and more organizations and businesses involved.
Hello?
Yeah, did we lose the line? There would be one other point I would make, not apropos that, while we get Ratna back on the line, and that is that for a match to be successful, the mentees need to be job ready. So what that means, if someone is coming from India or China or anywhere else, is they may have the technical skills, but there should, if that's the case, before they enter the mentoring relationship, there should be the kinds of interventions prior to that the employment services tend to provide for newcomers. That is, the corporate culture here, resume writing, interview skills, understanding, all of those components, so that the mentor can spend his or her time working on the networking, working on understanding that particular industry here in Canada, and the kinds of things that that individual, could have the greatest impact on. So those pre-mentor-mentee match services are very important in order to make the match and the results, successful.
Thank you, Mario. I think I'm back safely online. One never understands how technology works. Back in. So back to Peter. Tell us what some mentees said about their experiences.
Sure, thank you. So we will hear again from Ratna and Mario, but we just wanted to share a sample of what mentees said. During the survey, we also asked mentees for some feedback on the various mentoring programs that they had participated in, just short comments that they could share with us. And we've gathered a few and posted it here just so that it gives you a sampling of the kinds of positive experiences that so many of the mentees had felt. It's very encouraging indeed, and there were so many others that were longer, but we just picked a few that were representative of the various comments that we received across the country. And to liven things up, we thought it would be a wonderful idea if we actually heard from a mentee who's gone through the program, as well as a mentor who's been in the program as well. And so we're really fortunate to have Andres Castro, who was a mentee with the mentoring partnership here in Toronto and was mentored by someone from TD Bank. Andres is a new Canadian and successful as he found work at Mentee. He is an industrial engineer who has an MBA and is a professional certified project management expert. And he currently, as I said, works at TD as a business project manager, and he brings with him experience from Colombia, the UK, and Mexico. And incidentally, we just learned right before the webinar that thanks to his success and his pride in participating in the mentoring program, he has since mentored someone himself who has since also found work. So these are exactly the kind of wonderful stories that we want to hear about. So we'll first hear from Andre, and then we'll also hear from Maria, and I'll introduce Maria in a little more depth later. But Andre, if you could just kick things off by telling us exactly, what was your experience when you were looking for work when you first came to Canada, and what were some specific ways in which your mentee, or your mentor might have actually helped you?
Thank you, Peter, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my experience. Well, when I just came here to Canada like 2 years ago, I faced some challenges when I was looking for a job. And the first challenge was that I didn't have a really good understanding of the Canadian workplace, right? So I didn't have a strong resume, and I was not prepared for an interview. Even though I thought that I wasn't. And I would say I had a good communication skills, so my English was good. But I was communicating things in my way. And you need to learn how to communicate your ideas in the Canadian way in order to get the point across. And also I was a little bit shy when it comes to the networking. So those were some of the challenges that I faced when I just came here to Canada. So when I joined the program, that my mentor from TD helped me out to better understand the Canadian culture, but more than that, helped me out to understand what the project management role is here in Canada, particularly in the financial services industry, because that's what I was looking for. And also, my mentor allowed me to have a more focused perspective, because from the culture that I come, the more you do, the better. So I had in my resume that I was able to do project management, finance, marketing, and all that stuff. But you got to be focused. Here is a little bit different. But the most positive thing is that my mentor helped me out to identify gaps that I didn't know I had, right? And my mentor helped me to build my skill set in order to use my communication skills more effectively. So how to behave in a meeting, how to take control of a meeting, right? All that stuff that we need to be aware of. So I think the mentor-mentee relationship has to be built. So both mentor and mentee have to set up expectation from the beginning and have to set up a path that is going to be feasible for both. So a mentor is not a recruiter, guys. So a mentor is somebody that is going to help you build your skill set. And it is very important for the newcomers to be focused. To be focused on what you want to do, what kind of job you are looking for, which industry, right? And be open-minded. You got to be flexible. You have to understand that you are building a relationship. So I built my relationship with my mentor for 2.5, 3 months. And after that, my mentor knew me very well. And there was a position, and well, I applied for that position and I got that job, the job that I was looking for. And as you said, Peter, I started to mentor another person, and I did exactly the same, and that person is working right now here at TD. So I think that's the way to give back to the community. So basically, that's my story, Peter, and I don't know if you have any question.
I think that's wonderful, and it's powerful. I just have one question, Andre. Based on your experience, what advice would you give other mentees who are about to begin their mentoring relationship? What really worked for you? What advice would you give them?
I think it is key to be flexible and open-minded, but more important, be focused. So it's like you got to do a self-assessment and determine what kind of job are you looking for based on your skills. And the second part is take it seriously. Be professional with your mentor. Okay, if you're gonna meet on a weekly basis, meet on a weekly basis and try to build that relationship. And you got to be mindful that there are going to be gaps, and you have to build on those gaps. That's my recommendation, and also be open to the networking. Sometimes when we come from other countries, we are not used to the networking, right? So I think those are the key recommendations that I can provide to newcomers.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Andres. It's much appreciated. We'd like to now hear from Maria Augusto, who is the manager of external recruitment at TD Bank. She's been with TD Bank for well over 17 years, so she's a seasoned TD professional. In addition, she's also worked in retail banking and various HR roles, including recruitment, people and talent development, leadership and coaching. Maria is a graduate of George Brown with a degree in business administration, and based on her experience, she's also signed up to mentor again, so very excited about that. And Maria, why don't you start us off with why you decided to be a mentor, and what do you think your mentee learned from you?
Well, first of all, hello everyone, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my experience as a mentor. So, you know, the reason for my taking this opportunity is really very, very simple, and it brings me back to my roots when I when I came with my parents to this wonderful country from Europe, and really having a great experience and having the right people surround me and really coaching me and mentoring me as I entered high school. So this really resonated with me, continuing with my career path and joining this great organization of TD Bank. I had the pleasure pleasure of working with many, many great leaders who actually supported me and mentored me through, my career path and next steps. So it really got to a point in my career where I really was looking to expand my knowledge in terms of supporting and helping people achieve their goals, their professional goals, outside of the organization. So you get so focused in the organization that it really is a pleasure to go out and touch someone and be able to participate and provide them confidence. That was the reason for my taking on a mentor role. If you would allow me to expand on my experience, as Andres has been sharing with us, it really, the mentorship program, it really is an opportunity for the mentor and the mentee to really get to know each other and feel comfortable. I think that there has to be a great sense of commitment from both, and there's got to be a mutual understanding that, the mentor is not going to, find that ideal job, or that the mentee is not going to expect the same. However, as a mentor, my level of commitment was to have to be available for my mentee, not necessarily just for those 2 hours per week, but to really be available in good times and in tough times. I think my responsibility with my mentee that I had last year, whom I continue to connect with, was really to build and to enhance the level of confidence that she so needed when faced with a new culture, a new professional world where, at times we assume that it is there and that it is understood and that people know how to market themselves, how to distinguish themselves, and how to be open-minded. And that doesn't always happen. So I took that as a great deal of responsibility to ensure that my mentee really understood what key set of skills any hiring managers would be looking for in order to bring her to her career path. I think that's very important so that you can actually distinguish yourself from the competition.
Yeah.
I provided exposure to my mentee of the organization and really connected her with people that would be able to conduct an interview and explore her competencies.
Yeah. And just to flip it on its head, Maria, what did you learn from your mentee? Because we often hear that mentors learn as much.
Well, exactly. And for me, the experience was extremely positive because it really broadened my horizons in terms of, my networking and connections. It also gave me a great lesson in terms of being persistent and not giving up, and really being courageous to start off, brand new, and really having a great level of belief in oneself and knowing that they're going to persevere. So, many times it was a good mentorship session for both of us, which was great. It ended up working really, really well.
Very good. Thank you, Maria.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate both of you taking the time to join us today and share your experiences, which is wonderful. TD Bank has been one of the biggest supporters of the mentoring program, has been a founding partner of the mentoring partnership here in Toronto, and also funded the National Mentoring Initiative with Allies, and has provided mentors in many cities across Canada. And so just here in the Toronto area, to highlight a simple fact, they have over 1,000 matches, which is tremendous and to be really applauded. So it's wonderful that you both could join us, and we know that TD continues to be committed to this, and we really appreciate that. I'll pass it back to Ratna to just talk about maybe what do we do now that we have this evidence and we have the results of this survey. What could be some areas for us to explore further?
So I'm going to share this opportunity with Mario. If you and I, Mario, were to dream big,
Right?
we know that the results are and the evidence is compelling. We know that it is low cost, high impact. So if we were to dream big, how would you dream, Mario?
I'd like to see about, in the order of 20 to 30,000 matches a year. I think that's doable. Our industry is certainly large enough, and we know that the skilled immigrants that are arriving are the principal applicants in the skilled class are in the 70,000 range. That would be a significant impact. The challenge, as you know, Ratna, has been in really getting the small to medium enterprises on board because of their own lack of internal resources perhaps, and also there's so many of them, how to engage them. That's been our challenge. But certainly with larger corporate Canada, as Peter was mentioning with TD, there's been a good take-up, and I don't think we've even gone, more than 2% of the way in tapping into that resource.
So you'd almost like to see a university type, university of mentoring. And your point about small and medium size is well taken. I know that we at Allies have, we're doing some experiments with the Royal Bank Foundation in Halifax, Calgary, and Toronto to reach the SME audience, and in particular in Calgary and Halifax to reach them for mentoring, and we'll see whether any of these experiments show us the way forward. But, given the huge and significant and appropriate role that government must play and is playing in immigrant integration and immigrant attachment to the labor market, what do you think, Mary, is the role of government in terms of helping us get to 30,000 matches?
Well, first and foremost, they should open up all their departments to have their, public service staff to be mentors. And I know that in your work, Ratna, with some of the committees, we have a TRIEC that we've made, we've been able to make up some ground there. With governments, but they haven't really integrated it in the way that it should be integrated, especially given that we hear right across the country from premiers about the need for immigrants for the labor force, and so I think making it a priority, as the City of Toronto has, we've had great success with the City of Toronto with mentoring because successive mayors have gotten behind this. If we did the same with the province and especially the federal government, the provinces and the federal government, I think right off the bat, governments have engineers, accountants, lawyers, you name it, the whole range of professions, and so that would be first. The second would be their obligation to work in this area. Certainly they're supporting settlement services, but there's an obligation that if the priority is bringing in skilled immigrants, my argument has consistently been that we bring in people who have, on average, 14 or 15 years of education that another country has paid for. And so a small investment to actually leverage that would go a long way. The federal government has just announced the, $15,000 training grants to get people up to the new economy. For much less than that, they could actually have a huge impact in this area because it's a low-cost initiative. So I think those two areas, the funding support and making it a priority for their public service.
That's an excellent idea, and one we will be sure to talk about. $15,000 sure buys, as far as I know, a bunch of mentoring matches, not just
Mhm.
one, and with the impact. What about, Mario, can you reflect on the role of corporate Canada?
Well, it's interesting that that same announcement around the $15,000 has basically invited corporate Canada to be part of that training, because the $15,000 broke in three ways: federal, provincial, and $5,000 from the private sector to invest in training for the labor force. And I think that's their direction. I think that's the right direction. We're one of the few jurisdictions, our country, where that doesn't happen. If you look in Europe, whether it's apprenticeships or any other kind of training, the corporate private sector is closely involved. They don't leave it all up to the schools or the government. And so I think there's that component, but clearly the same, I think the same commitment that we have seen for those who have gotten involved, like TD and RBC and the other, in Deloitte, the other players, Ratna, that we have in mentoring partnership. I think that's the kind of commitment we need, and it has to come from the CEOs. That's where we finally found that it suddenly it was a tipping point that happened when the CEOs came out in support of this. All the VPs, directors, managers kind of lined up and to say, okay, this is a priority for our company, and it looks good on my, for my career if I get involved as a mentor and promote it with my own staff. So I do think there's, without them it wouldn't happen. So it's a huge component to have the private sector involved.
Thank you, Mario. You're saying some very interesting things, and just to let the audience know, we are flirting at the 100 mark for the audience. We go between 100 and 99 for the last 10 minutes, so one person keeps popping out to do something else, but that's a very good number. One of the most interesting experiences I had as I was marketing mentoring was again with corporate leadership, Mario, is when one consulting company set up a challenge that it would beat another consulting company, and that set off a huge race, lots of fun, lots of great stuff for us. And so those are the kinds of things, corporate leadership does matter.
And on that too, that kind of competition is important, but also I found there's another element, which is one where the CEOs have, also taken, let's say, credit for being socially responsible by doing this. And I think, it's always really about the bottom line. But if this works for their bottom line, which many of them say it has, because diversity is a strength for companies, and we know how some of these mentees actually have been hired and immediately have been put on the international desk where they're, working with countries they're familiar with for the larger companies. And so the bottom line is important, but also, I have heard the social justice issue in a sense, and so I think that kind of competition to show that they're doing the socially responsible thing is a good thing.
Okay, so thank you. We have to open up the floor to the audience. They have lots of questions, but before I do so, I know Accenture is not listening in, but we could not have done this without Accenture. They spent lots of time, senior team, working here at Maytree. So thank you, Accenture. And now I want to hand it back to Peter for a Q&A.
Sure. Thank you, Mario and Ratna. We've got a lot of questions. I'll just read the questions out, and then either Mario or Ratna, or if it's related to the employers or the mentee and mentor experience as well, Andres, and please join us as well. Andres and Maria, sorry. First question, does anyone have any advice regarding employers who are reluctant to mentor or hire immigrants? Maybe Ratna, you could start.
Well, I've experienced this, and in the early days, 10 years ago, when we were building this, and people would say to me, well, why should I do this? And I think the best argument is to explain to them that this will help them, and this will help them in many different ways, and we've got this all documented. It will help an employer by gaining insights into different cultures who are making up a significant part of the customer base in the cities that we are in. Secondly, it will help them get an insight into intercultural competencies. And intercultural competencies in this hyper-diverse context that we are in Canada, in most Canadian cities, is not a nice to have. It's a must-have. You will not be able to do business unless you understand some of the cultural nuances of the other person you're selling a product to or buying a product to or sitting across the table to. And so these are all very compelling arguments, and I found that, but possibly the most compelling argument is your competition is doing it. And, it goes back to my consulting company's experience when I went to one and I said, listen, these are all the good reasons, but do you know that your competition is heavily involved? That's when they sat up and noticed. So I think it depends on how you market it, but there are a number of arguments that you can adapt to your particular context.
And if there's a desire to do it, but a concern about how to go about it, Ratna, the TRIEC website actually has the employer toolbox and a number of other informative and supportive tools for employers who want to get into this.
Absolutely.
Very good. Another question is, aside from income and employment, what are some other benefits that mentees derive from this in your personal experience?
Oh,
Mario, do you want to take the first crack, maybe?
In terms of the mentees, what they derive from this? One thing I hear, Peter, that it may not be the obvious answer is that when they meet someone in their field who understands their struggle, it really builds their confidence and self-esteem. They may have been working, developing their resumes and all of that stuff. But then, you have a health professional talking to another health professional, and the discussion is at a peer level. And it boosts their confidence that they can actually make it here, and that's actually a huge benefit for them because it then shows up in any interviews they get. You have to approach an interview with confidence, and so that's one of the benefits that certainly isn't always obvious, but is fundamental to the relationship.
I would add to that something totally intuitive. I have no evidence to back this up outside anecdotes, and I am a storyteller. But when I hear stories about people having Thanksgiving dinner together, and when I hear stories about visits to the cottage, I think this must be a powerful way to build a social cohesion in our country. And I wonder if our next research project, and maybe Accenture will do this for us too, is to try and understand the unintended outcomes that contribute to nation building through mentoring.
Quite, yeah, for sure.
Good. And we have a question here about what are some good questions that a mentee should ask to prepare themselves for a mentoring partnership? And maybe Maria and Andres, you could try to address that.
Can we repeat the question again?
So the question is, what are good questions that a mentee should ask themselves to prepare for a mentoring relationship?
So I would say that, the first piece would be the level of commitment and availability to meet with a mentee, to be able to, to share potential listerants, to bring, their resume that would illustrate, the competencies and some of the work that they've done previously, and really also to be transparent and sincere in terms of their next steps and what they would be open to.
Okay. Andres, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I think Maria addressed that properly. What I would say is try to try to be focused on what you want, okay, in order for you to level set the expectation with your mentor, and in order to start the relationship right. So that's something that I would add.
Okay, very good. There's a question just about the demographics of that was shared earlier. The question is, are these the demographics of the whole mentee population or just of the survey respondents? So the demographic information that was shared was just of those who responded to the survey. I hope that clarifies that. There's also a question about the differences in stats for mentoring between regional, rural areas versus urban centers. Unfortunately, at this time, the study didn't compare between rural and urban areas. Most of the surveys were conducted in our partners in urban Canada, but going forward, I hope we'll have greater participation in a similar survey across many more programs so that we'll have solid data from more regional and rural areas as well. So, anything you might add, Mario or Ratna?
No, we just don't have the data. It's, it would be really interesting. In fact, if there are other research questions that the audience can think about, do send them to us, and we'll see whether there's a way of answering them. But that's an interesting question, and one that some academics should be possibly interested in if they're listening in.
Yeah.
We have a question from North Bay as well. Starting April 1st, we are no longer funded to do one-on-one matching mentoring. Our only option is to do group mentoring. What tools suggestions would you have for group mentoring?
We have a toolkit on the Allies website. Peter, will you provide a link to it?
We will
provide a link to it.
Yes.
Group mentoring can be actually highly successful, in my understanding, particularly when you're dealing with a situation within a regulated occupation, and a group mentor can almost the mentor guides a small class of mentees through the regularization process or the licensing process or other things. But a full toolkit is available. In many jurisdictions, people are choosing group mentoring because the demand is simply so high that they have to find other ways of creating these matches. I feel really bad that you are no longer funded to do one-on-one, because that is still, in my books, the highest impact for the lowest cost. But I guess our work on advocacy, Mario, is cut out for us.
Yeah, definitely. I'm concerned that they've been cut on a program that is getting such great results at low cost. That's unfortunate, and yes, we must do some advocacy on it.
Good. I'm cognizant of the time. We're coming up to 2 o'clock, so this will be the last question. And Mario, perhaps you could take a first crack at it. Does a mentee have to be unemployed to get a mentor? Most of the time, mentees have to find other jobs to survive, and many of them are struggling as they work other jobs to get back into their fields. In your knowledge, are most of the mentees unemployed when they join the program, or are you finding that there's an even split between those who are working or unemployed at the time of joining?
Definitely not an even split. It's the priority is unemployed, and most of them that do come onto the program are unemployed. I'm not sure if we actually have any criteria around the underemployed, but I know that some of them have been on the mentoring program, but the priority is the unemployed, and the majority are.
Okay. Okay, very good. I think we are coming to the end of the webinar. I really want to take this time to thank our two mentor and mentee from TD Bank, Andres and Maria. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and of course, big thank you to TD Bank for all the support on mentoring. Also, Mario, Calla, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and time with us, and Ratna, of course, for sharing the information from the report. This concludes the webinar. You can download the report on alliescanada.ca, or you can download it from the link that's on your screen right now. This webinar has been recorded and will be posted shortly on the Allies website, and once it has been posted, you will receive a notice saying so. So again, thank you so much to all the participants who joined us. I hope this has been useful to you, and we look forward to connecting with you next time. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Peter.
Peter.
Thank you all.
Bye.